Hi, boys and girls. This is Mr. Tom. This week, we're going to read about the Apostle Paul when he went to the city of Philippi and met a woman by the name of Lydia who was a seller of purple. That's very interesting. A seller of purple. Well, what does that mean? Well, back in the Bible days, purple was a very rare color. Not very many people could buy purple because it was very rare and very expensive. Only kings and queens and people with lots of money could buy purple. And so Lydia went to the city of Philippi and sold purple dyes and probably purple clothes and fabrics because the people were rich and had lots of money there. In fact, in the city of Philippi, there was gold mines outside of the city. So it was a very wealthy city. Well, the purple dyes back in that day came from these little snails. They're called murex snails. You can see this hand here and is holding 3 little snails. The snails are only about 1 inch or 2 inches wide, but they secrete. That means they have ink that comes out of them that is purple. And so the people back in that day would get those little snails, and it would take a lot of them to create dyes to be able to color things like wool and yarn. It would take 10 to 12 thousands of these little guys right here to be able to color one garment, one piece of clothing. So it's very rare. Well, today I'm going to show you how you can color a shirt with different colors. So stay with me here. So we take a plain white t-shirt like this, and then what we are going to do is we're going to color it purple with a purple dye. And I've got it all folded up here, a t-shirt with rubber bands around it. And then I take this purple dye and I'm going to pour it on here, just all over this t-shirt, just like this. And then I'm going to turn it over like this and put more purple dye on it. And I know your mommies and daddies will thank me at some point in the future. But this was so much fun that we can color this all over. And then what we are going to do is we're going to put this in a plastic bag like this. I'm going to put it in here, and then we're going to seal it up, and we're going to let it set like that overnight, and then we'll see what happens. Look, here is the white shirt that I dyed purple. Isn't it beautiful? Here's the back of it. Purple and white. You can do the same thing with your mommies and daddies. This morning, I am out by the Arkansas River. It is beautiful out here. Look at the river around me. Over here you see Pinnacle Mountain, and you see some geese over here by the riverside. And there's an island back behind me. It's beautiful and peaceful out here and quiet. You see the Arkansas River. It's still. And then over here you see the bridge that crosses the Arkansas River. You may have crossed the bridge with your mommies and daddies in the car. This river reminds me of our Bible story this morning. The Bible story takes place beside a river. Last week we read about the Apostle Paul and Barnabas, and they went on their first missionary journey. Well, this is the second missionary journey, and this time Paul chooses a man by the name of Silas. And they are going to go back and visit many of the churches that they had established on their first trip. So Paul chooses Silas for the mission trip. The church leaders sent Paul and Silas with the grace of the Lord. So they went through Syria and Cilicia. Paul strengthened the churches. He came to Derbe and to a city named Lystra. A disciple was there named Timothy. He was a young man. He was the son of a Jewish woman who was a believer, but his father was a Greek. He was well spoken of by the Christians there. So Paul wanted to take Timothy along with them on this missionary journey. Here's a picture of Timothy. See the picture of Timothy there? He was a young man, and he was well respected, and Paul wanted to take him along with them on the missionary journey. So Paul and Silas and Timothy come to a city named Troas. And while they are there, Paul has a vision. And in that vision, there's a man that appears to him and says, he was a man from Macedonia, that's over in Greece. And he's standing there and he says, "Come here, help us." When Paul had seen the vision, he got up right away, and they went and got in a boat and headed over to Macedonia. He decided that God had called them to preach the gospel there. So Paul and his friends set sail on a ship. They came to Philippi. That's a city, Philippi, that we've talked about. This was a leading city and a Roman colony. They remained there in this city many days. On the Sabbath day, that's Saturday, Paul and his friends went outside the gate of the city to the riverside. They supposed that there was a place of prayer there. They sat down and spoke to the women who had come together there. See, here's a picture of Paul and Silas, and you see the river in the background, and you see the women there. They gathered there for a place of prayer. And they're listening to Paul tell them about the good news of Jesus and how much he loves them, and they're listening to him. One woman who heard Paul was named Lydia. She was from the city of Thyatira. She sold purple goods. She was a worshiper of God. She was a Christian businesswoman there in Philippi selling her purple clothing and purple dyes. The Lord opened her heart to pay attention to what was said by Paul. Afterward, Lydia was baptized, and her whole household as well. Her family and her servants, everybody became Christians. They wanted to follow Jesus as well. She said to Paul and the others, "If you believe that I'm truly a Christian, a true believer in the Lord, and I'm faithful, please come to my house and stay with me." And Lydia and her family were the first Christians there in Philippi. And that grew into a wonderful church there, the church at Philippi. And the Apostle Paul wrote letters to Philippi, the church there, later on. And in that letter, he says, "I thank my God in all remembrance of you. I thank him always in every prayer of mine. I make my prayer for you with joy." Paul loved the church there in Philippi, and the church continued to grow and grow and grow. Just remember that God loves you so much. Thank you for letting me read to you another Bible story this week, and I'll see you next week.